A federal judge in Virginia wants the Trump administration to provide more information about a Georgetown University researcher who was detained by immigration authorities in March. Badar Khan Suri is an Indian national with a student visa who's studying peace building in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Department of Homeland Security has accused him of having, quote, close connections to a Hamas official. Suri was arrested under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, which allows deportations of non-citizens deemed a threat to U.S. foreign policy interests. A Georgetown University spokesperson told CBS News in March, quote, "We are not aware of him engaging in any illegal activity, and we have not received a reason for his detention." Suri was originally taken to a facility in Virginia where he lives, then moved to Texas less than 72 hours after his arrest. The Trump administration told the judge Thursday it wants to move Suri's case out of Virginia to Texas, and the judge says she wants to know why the government made that decision. For more, let's bring in CBS News Justice Department reporter Jake Rosen. Jake, when might the judge rule on whether she will keep Suri's case in Virginia, and how might a venue change affect his case?
Well, there's a deadline tonight, Lindsay, for the Department of Justice to answer those questions. Some of them are pretty simple, of who made the decision to move Suri from Virginia to Louisiana and then to Texas, where he's currently detained now. And others are actually how many people were in the detention center he was originally brought to in Virginia, because at least according to a sworn declaration by Dr. Suri in court, filed by his attorneys in this case, that there were open beds there and he saw them, and an ICE agent told him he would likely remain in Virginia, which is why, even though he couldn't get in touch with his attorneys, the attorneys filed this suit in the Eastern District of Virginia. When they moved him to Louisiana and then to Texas, there were no beds, because as we know, and we've talked about extensively, Lindsay, Texas and Louisiana are the hotspots of deportations for the Trump administration, often moving people there to ICE detention centers before they're moved out. Mr. Suri's attorneys have until tomorrow night to respond to whatever answers the Department of Justice gives, and the judge did signal in court that it might not be over the weekend, but early next week she'd have an answer, because the original point of yesterday's hearing was to sort out whether or not she has the power to release him from detention, something that she purposely kicked back this hearing about a month so that she could kind of hear everything in one go. But because of enough pushback by Department of Justice attorneys and enough unknown facts in this case, she wanted to hear more before she makes that determination, whether she can actually make that decision or it gets potentially kicked to a judge down south, where the Trump administration at least has felt that they'd get more sympathetic answers on things like releasing people from detention as their deportation proceedings are playing out.
There are several upcoming legal deadlines in the case of Kilar Abrego Garcia, the man mistakenly deported to El Salvador in March. And on Friday, Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security released body cam footage of a 2022 traffic stop involving Abrego Garcia. What should we know and what's next for his case?
Well, the big thing that we should remind our viewers is that he was never charged in this incident. The state trooper that pulled him over cited him for just the misdemeanor, and there was an initial filing by this cop that pulled him over saying there was a suspicion of human trafficking, but there was never any further proceedings on that. This really comes as the Trump administration has tried to kind of spin the perception of Abrego Garcia as not just a man who was accidentally deported, but a man who had issues at home, which we've documented at CBS, that there were multiple complaints and temporary protective orders sought by his wife, Jennifer Vasquez, after alleged domestic abuse incidents. Those were secured temporarily, but then they were never followed through in a more permanent way, as she did not show up for multiple court hearings on that. But it really comes as really immaterial to the facts of this case, in which 2019, an immigration judge said he could not be deported to El Salvador. The Trump administration did that. Any kind of criminal allegations that the Trump administration has made, if they were to be actually even filed, would have to be heard again here in America in an American court. That has not happened yet because he is still in El Salvador.
And the Trump administration just asked the Supreme Court to let the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, have access to sensitive information kept by the Social Security Administration. What are they looking for?
Well, this is the first time that any kind of DOGE-related lawsuit has hit the high court's docket. The Solicitor General John Sauer called it an unprecedented move and sweeping injunctive relief without legal authority to do so by a judge in this case in Maryland who ordered a block on DOGE's access to this information. It includes people's Social Security numbers and a number of other sensitive documents. This really comes as DOGE has kind of finalized its push around the government, really closing down the things that President Trump and Elon Musk have have said that they would do. And there's kind of a move that, as we've reported again at CBS, to kind of move whether it's taxpayer information, Social Security information into one place so that A, the Trump administration can say that they've kind of reformed the government, and B, to potentially use that information for further deportations and things along those lines. The Supreme Court has given until May 12th for the people who originally brought this suit to block this to respond, and it certainly sets up a very high-stakes battle about what the authority of the Department of Government Efficiency is going forward, and whether what the work that they have done so far, at least in terms of getting access and seeking access to such a high-stakes place, is legal.
And the Justice Department and Maine reached a settlement Friday, which appears to be the busiest day of the week in your beat, after the state accused the Trump administration of withholding funds for food assistance programs because Maine allows transgender girls to participate in girls' sports. This was a really memorable moment between the governor of Maine and the president. The governor saying, "I'll see you in court." Now there's a settlement. What more can you tell us?
Well, that's right. In a statement by Maine Governor Janet Mills, she said, "We did see him in court and we did win." Maine brought this suit because millions of dollars of school funding was withheld over this issue that the Trump administration took from them. They secured a block from a judge about a week and a half ago, and as a result, the two sides came to an agreement. However, the Trump administration is still suing Maine over what they see as civil rights violations because there have been at least 3 instances, the Trump administration says, of biological men playing in girls' sports in the state. They see that as discrimination by the state against other girl athletes in Maine.
Jake Rosen, thank you.